I fell in love with Allen and I just wanted to be with him. So when he asked me to marry him, I said yes. And this is our life now. For the last 6 or 7 years, all we've done is stay home and eat.
Vianey and Allen might look like every other couple on My 600-Pound Life, but their story is anything but ordinary. Get ready to be blindsided, because nothing prepares you for the moment everything falls apart. One moment, Vianey is finally getting the surgery she fought so hard for, and the next, her heart crashes, and the entire operating room erupts into chaos.
I don't know what I'm seeing on the monitor. Her body is not having it pain.
Okay, black the bathroom table.
She's about to start coding. Her heart is stopping.
It's the kind of twist that doesn't just change a storyline, it changes two lives forever. If you think you've seen shocking moments on this show before, this one is on a completely different level. A messy and emotional journey. When Vianey Rodriguez and Alan Lewis first appear on My 600-Pound Life, she threw herself into Dr. Now's program with a determination that he just couldn't match. While she was following the diet perfectly, he was sneaking fast food. It looked like she would be one of the show's huge success stories, and he would need to lean on her if he was ever going to lose weight. But when her surgery was suddenly stopped on the operating table, everything flipped. The disappointment hit her hard, and the motivation she had just disappeared. And as Alan finally started taking the diet seriously and losing weight, Vianey went in the opposite direction. She seemed to just shut down. You can see moments where she's frustrated and jealous because she can't stand the idea of Alan moving forward without her. And as she slipped back into her old habits, eating way too much food, she not only encouraged Alan to join her, she complained when he didn't. It was clear that she was annoyed by his strict adherence to Dr. Now's diet and the fact that the weight was falling off of him. They loved each other, no question, but their lives were so full of old trauma, fear, and a lifetime of using food to cope when everything else felt too hard. It's no wonder that their journey wasn't simple. It was messy, emotional, full of highs and lows, and in the end, it led to a heartbreaking conclusion neither of them saw coming. When the show aired, Vianey was 35, Alan was 51, and they were both morbidly obese. Their life was stagnant. They didn't work, they didn't socialize, they didn't even leave their house. She was essentially stuck spending every moment of her life in the living room because she could no longer make it to her bed. They'd stopped sleeping with each other long ago when they could no longer fit in the same bed. Although he wasn't in much better shape than she was, he did all the cooking and shopping. Alan said he woke up every morning in pain, not just in one place, but everywhere. He would get up, get dressed, and then help Vianey do the same. They did this as quickly as possible so they could get to their favorite part of the morning, breakfast. It was the only time that brought them happiness. Alan would cook enough food for a family of 6, a massive amount of bacon, a dozen eggs, a stack of pancakes. The food comforted them in a way nothing else could. He said it felt like being wrapped in a cocoon where nothing could hurt him. Overweight adolescents. Matching milestones. Alan and Vianey could both trace their dependence on food back to a long history of trauma. Alan grew up with a speech impediment caused by a fall on his head when he was just 2 years old. Because of it, he was bullied relentlessly at school. His father wasn't around, and his stepfather, the person he felt closest to, left after he and Alan's mother divorced. This devastated Alan, causing him to turn to food for comfort. By the time he was 13, he weighed over 200 pounds. Being obese only increased the bullying, and it wasn't long before he dropped out of high school. In his 20s, he weighed over 400 pounds. He was arrested and jailed for stealing cars and emerged from prison with no diploma, no job prospects, and no support system. So he turned once again to the only thing that had ever made him happy: food. He stayed inside his house and ate. By his 30s, he was up to 500 pounds. Vianey's childhood was even more brutal. When she was just a little girl, her mother would physically and verbally abuse her, beating her with whatever she could grab, belts, cords, or cables. Vianey ate to ease her pain and was put on diet pills because her mother was ashamed of having a fat daughter, which made Vianey feel unwanted and unloved. This only made her eat more. When she was assaulted by a family friend, food became her only refuge. By 13, she weighed over 200 pounds. By 15, she was over 400. When her mother died before they could repair their relationship, the grief pushed her even deeper into binge eating. When Allen and Vianey met online, they bonded instantly over their shared pain and their love of food. Vianey said that his lack of hang-ups about his weight made her feel more comfortable about her own. When he proposed, she accepted, and soon they were enabling each other on a daily basis. Together, they created a world where overeating was their only source of joy. They ate together, hid from the world together, and grew even bigger together. Choosing life. Eventually, the couple came to the conclusion that if they didn't do something about their weight, they would die. That's when they got in touch with Dr. Now, because they lived in Chicago, 14 hours from Houston. Their first appointment with him was a video call. He immediately called out their enabling behavior and their unrealistic expectations. He bluntly told them that if they didn't change their eating habits, he wouldn't be able to help them. They assured Dr. Now that they wanted to lose weight, so he provided a strict 1,200 calorie high-protein, low-carb diet. He said in no uncertain terms that they would both have to lose a significant amount of weight before they could even attempt the dangerous trip to Houston. A long car ride or a short flight could cause blood clots, heart strain, respiratory failure, and death. When they looked at the diet, the shock of reality set in. They were used to eating thousands of calories at each meal. Dr. Now wanted them to eat 1,200 calories for the entire day. Allen worried that Vianey would become depressed if she had to give up all her comfort foods at once. So, thinking he was being a good husband, when he went food shopping, the first things on his grocery list were ice cream, cookies, chips, and peanut butter. None of which were on the diet. But surprisingly, after 3 months, they had lost enough weight to travel to Houston. They packed their belongings into their truck, brought 2 family friends to drive a U-Haul, and began the long journey. However, the trip was a disaster from the moment it began. After only 2 hours, Vianey was in agony and demanded they stop for the night. They checked into a motel and immediately ordered a massive fast food meal. Dr. Now would not have approved. The next day they tried again, and Vianey was in pain almost immediately. On top of that, in the middle of the highway, their mattress flew off the back of their truck and into traffic, causing Vianey to whine that she would not have a bed in their new apartment. You would think things couldn't get much worse, but they did. When they arrived in Houston, they went straight to the leasing office of the apartment they were planning to rent as it was about to close. They didn't have the right documents with them, so they couldn't start moving in. Having spent all their money on food, they thought they would have to sleep in their pickup truck overnight. But Vianey's aunt sent them money so they could all stay in a hotel. At least one crisis was averted. The next day, they moved into their apartment. It was far from perfect. They had to walk into the bedroom sideways because the doorway was so narrow. A prophetic warning. Finally, the day had come. They entered Dr. Now's clinic for the first time. At the first weigh-in, they honestly didn't know how much they weighed. And the truth hit hard. Allen was over 650 pounds, and Vianey was slightly under 600. Dr. Now noted her distended abdomen, her lymphedema, and a painful open sore on her stomach. He told them if they lost 50 pounds each in the next month, he would approve them for weight loss surgery, and warned that if they didn't follow the diet, one of them would end up burying the other. Vianey was especially determined to lose the weight and get the surgery. They removed all the carbs and sugary foods from their apartment and began exercising together. They even discussed their future, having a normal life with kids and a chance to be a family. but Allen wasn't as committed as he seemed. Every time he left the house, he would sneak fast food. When they returned to Dr. Now, their results were very different. Vianey exceeded her goal, losing more than 50 pounds, but Allen remained far from his. Dr. Now approved Vianey for surgery, but gave Allen a harsh warning. If he didn't start taking the diet seriously, he would not only sabotage his own progress, but hers as well. At this point, no one would ever have guessed what was to come, because Vianey was doing everything right, and Allen wasn't. Terror in the operating room. A month later, Vianey returned to the hospital to have her gastric sleeve surgery. Before she was wheeled away from Allen, she said she was nervous but hopeful. Sadly, once she was on the operating table, everything went wrong. Her body could not handle the strain of anesthesia. Her heart began to struggle. Her vitals crashed. The monitors flashed warnings. Dr. Now called for CPR. The surgical team worked frantically to stabilize her. For a terrifying moment, it looked like they might lose her, but they managed to get her heart beating again. They stopped the operation immediately and brought her out of anesthesia. When they told her what had happened, she wasn't upset that she had almost died. She was devastated that she hadn't gotten the surgery. And that's when everything changed. After the failed surgery, Allen and Vianey's lives started going in different directions. Vianey lost her motivation, while Allen found his and went on to have a successful weight loss surgery. When the episode ended, both of them weighed under 400 pounds, and it seemed like they were both progressing. A few months later, they were featured in a Where Are They Now episode of My 600-Pound Life. Dr. Now said after their episode ended, Vianey had been doing well and was scheduled for weight loss surgery. But strangely, she never showed up for it. He tried getting in touch, but she had disappeared. Then a few months later, she arrived at the hospital with a terrible infection, and she was much heavier than she had been the last time Dr. Now saw her. By that time, it was clear that all of her motivation was gone. Fear and jealousy emerge, and divorce seems to loom. Meanwhile, Allen was thriving. He had lost so much weight, he was ready for skin removal surgery. And that's when the foundation really started to crumble. Vianey began eating far more than Allen, and was annoyed when he wouldn't eat the same amount. He tried to make her happy, filling his plate high and then throwing out whatever he didn't eat. But she noticed and made snarky remarks like, "It must be nice to be full after 2 bites." She even blamed him for sabotaging her diet and grew jealous of his newfound confidence. Allen remained supportive, but realized they were no longer headed in the same direction. As his body changed, he wanted to go out and do fun things, but she wanted to stay home, like they always had. When they returned to Dr. Now, Allen was down 228 pounds, and Vianey had gained over 100. When Dr. Now told her that if she got back on track, he would approve her surgery, she said she would try, but admitted she didn't think she could do it. She never had the surgery. After the show, Vianey took Allen onto divorce court. She was sure he was going to leave her, but Allen said his feelings hadn't changed, and he still loved her. A therapist on the show reminded them that they were both still on a weight loss journey, and they could still do it together. Judge Starr said she knew from the beginning they were still in love and wanted them to go home and work on their relationship. Sadly, just a short while later, in 2023, Vianey passed away. Some sources say she contracted COVID and died of pneumonia in the hospital. But her obituary didn't specify her cause of death, and we may never know the full story. Her death was sad, but not a huge surprise. Dr. Now warned them at their first visit that if they didn't lose weight, one of them would end up burying the other. Allen did the work, lost the weight, and, as Dr. Now predicted, ended up burying Vianey. It was a sad ending to their volatile story. Since her passing, Allen has found love again, with none other than Season 7's Angie J, Angela Johns. You remember her. Drugs, homelessness, a husband who left her, refusing to go to rehab, calling Dr. Now a liar. Yeah, that Angie J. Did you know she finally got herself together, stuck to the program, qualified for surgery, and eventually lost a few £100s? Yeah, pretty shocking, huh? Most fans have called their relationship a recipe for disaster. Personally, I'm rooting for them both. Clearly, Vianey's story ends here, but Allen's is still evolving. After his tumultuous relationship with Vianey, one has to wonder why he would get involved with a woman as controversial as Angie J. Perhaps it's because he needs some excitement in his life after spending decades inside his home. What do you think of their relationship? Do they stand a chance? Tell us in the comments below.
Mmm. Mmm.